Hello and welcome to Season 19, Episode 12 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we have our final two games of the season. We're away against West Brom and away against Hull. If those games sound winnable, it's because those games are winnable. If I move out the way for a moment, you'll see that they are both in the relegation zone. Sorry for the chair noise. I didn't think that through. But, our form is mixed at best. Since you were last with us, I think you saw the Chelsea game. We then drew at home to West Ham 0-0 and at home to Newcastle 0-0. They're both pathetic results. 0-0 draws for us, not good enough. We beat Palace, we beat Brentford, we beat QPR, but we also failed to beat Leicester. And all of that has meant that in the last 6 games, we've drifted back from our high of third, where we settled for a couple of games, back to what really is, if you look at our season as a whole, a perfectly acceptable position. If you look at the pre-season predictions, we were predicted 6th. We're currently sat 5th. The board are only looking for Europa League qualification. So on all of those fronts, we're doing fine. We've already met our targets. We've met our predictions for the season. The problem is we have a whole bunch of players, one of which is Michael Vendrig, who's scored nearly 50 goals this season. 46 goals from 46 starts in all competitions. I don't think I've ever had a player quite like that. But we promised him we'd win the Champions League this season. He agreed not to leave when it was Barcelona who knocked us out, but he was only giving us one more season. If we don't even qualify for the Champions League, he will still leave this summer, presumably, and we can't afford to let him go because he's such a massively important part of our team. So we've got 2 games against relegation-threatened teams. We should be able to beat them both, but West Brom, who we play today, will be fighting for their lives. If we don't beat them, it's a problem. It's between Chelsea, Stoke, us and Norwich. Man United and Liverpool have just dropped off completely. But it's going to be a tricky one. This is the team that we're going to play to do it. We have gone back to the 4-3-1-2. We've been doing this for the last 3 or 4 games. And it's working fine. The last game was awful. But my theory is we've got one of the best strikers in the world in Cotton Eye Joe and one of the most prolific current goal scorers in the world in Vendrig, plus a wonder kid in Oscar. You've got to play the 3 of them to their strengths. We've got 2 world-class midfielders in Sedman and Ziyech. Medor's a proper tackling midfield player-ish. As much as I want to play the 4-2-3-1, I like the look of it. We don't have any wingers. Sedlacek's still injured. It forces Oscar out onto the left wing, or Ijo out onto the left wing, or Vendrig out onto the left wing. Either way, we're not playing to the strengths of these two. We're not playing to the strengths of Oscar. We have to either drop one of our world-class midfielders or not have anyone in midfield who can tackle. It's not ideal. There's transfer business that needs to be done to allow us to play the 4-2-3-1. But again, even though we've met all the pre-season targets and the board are happy, they've just given me a new contract on £70,000 a week for 4 years. They're that happy with me. But if we don't make it into the Champions League, I'm not going to have the money to reinvest in the squad and start moving us towards that new shape that we want to be playing. So there's so many reasons outside of what the board are looking for and what the media are expecting and even what the fans are looking for. And we just can't win a football match. We're losing against West Brom. West Brom are rubbish. We shouldn't be. We were this close to knocking Barcelona out of the Champions League. And now we're going to not even qualify for it next year because we're going to lose to West Brom. It has completely knocked the stuffing out of me and my players, the nonsense that went on against Barcelona. I'd have rather not scored at all in that second leg. I'd have rather it just be a 0-0. We could have gone, oh, well, we tried, but Barcelona were just too good for us. But that's not what happened. We were this close. We were a last-minute goal in the first leg away from qualifying. We were a scuffed, missed finish in the second leg away from qualifying. We were so close. Oh, Sedman's just scored an absolute beauty. And there you go. There's your benefit of the 4-3-1-2. Because if we do 4-2-3-1, there's a very good chance Sedman's not even in the team. Because despite being a world-class midfielder, a World Cup winner, and a player capable of doing that, there's no room for him in a 4-2-3-1. So there's a pretty convincing argument for why this is the system that we need to be playing for at least for these final 2 games until we've reshuffled the squad a little bit over the summer. I'm not really sure what to do transfer-wise this summer because a lot of these players who we spent a lot of money on 2 summers ago now are getting older. The likes of Nyhouse is 31. Sedman, I think, is 30. Cotton Eye Joe is 30. We have got a younger crop of players coming through. Sedman, I think, is probably 30 as well. The likes of Vendrig and Oscar, obviously, Anicic, Wagner, Plotnikov even, and Eriksson. These are all younger players. But there is a significant chunk of older players in the ranks as well. And we need to decide, because we did all these, we're winning now, by the way. We did all these transfers on the never. We're paying them off for the next 2 years still, which is why we're in such a ridiculous amount of debt. So someone like Cotton Eye Joe or Sedman or Ziyech even, basically all the ones who I describe regularly as world class, we need to sell them at some point. We can't just let their value fritter away to nothing unless we're convinced they're going to be good enough to play for us for the next 2 seasons while we're still paying for them. Because what we can't do is not play them next season and then sell them for £5 million but still spend £15 million the following season on their transfer from before, if you get what I mean. I know what I'm saying. Oh, Cotton Eye Joe is in. There you go. So someone like Cotton Eye Joe, if we're serious about doing a 4-2-3-1, do we need him? Do we need both him and Vendrig? Or do we say to Vendrig, right, you're now the main man up front. Please stay. Don't go to Paris Saint-Germain or wherever you're looking. We'll sign a youngster to be your backup and offer you a bit of competition. But we're going to sell Cotton Eye Joe for £40 million and we're going to reinvest that money in a couple of wingers. I'm trying to... I know I came into Tottenham and splurged and caused financial problems. Now I've got a 4-year contract. I'm trying to think a little bit more long term. At the time, it was a splurge with a view to trying to not get sacked in my first season and trying to turn this team into a Champions League team quickly. We're almost there. But now we need to start... I need to undo some of the damage I did earlier and maybe make this the team that we stick at until we win a Champions League. Maybe. Depends if they go bust. If we don't get into the Champions League this year, then I don't see how we can stick around, because financially the club will be in ruin. Cotton Eye Joe has just scored another goal. It's 4-1 now. We're a little bit closer to our old selves. You'll notice as well, although we're back to the old tactic, we're not back all the way to the constant attack structured that we were doing before. Yeah, Cotton Eye Joe's having a nice little dance there. So we're on control and flexible, because I still want players like Oscar to be able to express themselves. We're not fully onto fluid yet. I'm not quite that brave with it. But we don't want to be playing like a third division team the way I think we were probably guilty of doing earlier in the season. Wagner's going to come on now and slot in there. Right, what's going on in these other results? Norwich look like they've thrown it all away. However, both Chelsea and Stoke haven't played yet. So even though we've put in a really convincing performance here, if both Chelsea and Stoke win their games that they get to play, we'll still be going into the final day of the season in 5th place with everything still to do. Hull will already be relegated by then. They are already relegated, in fact. So that's who we're playing. So we don't need to... hopefully they'll just sit down and let us batter them. But we've all seen strange run-ins at the end of seasons. We all remember last year, anything can happen on that last day, and it depends if the game wants to bend reality to let us into the Champions League like it did last year, or whether we get a bit of pushback from that nonsense and it decides that, you know what, we're gonna make you have a season in the Europa League, you nut muffin. Right, let's go and play the last game of the season. That was a massive result for us. Liverpool have done us a huge favour, beating Chelsea away from home. It means we go into the last day of the season in possession. We're in 4th place. If we win this match, then we're in the Champions League. Hull are already relegated. Surely we can't blow it from here. I imagine what will happen is everyone involved will all lose their matches. Who's everyone else playing? So Stoke. Stoke are away against Brentford. Could Brentford save us again for the 2nd year in a row? Chelsea and Norwich play each other, so there's only going to be one of them coming at us. Ideal result. Norwich can't catch us, in fact. So if Norwich beat Chelsea to 5th place, then we're there anyway. And if we could then pick up a win and have Brentford do us a favour for the second season in a row, third could still happen. And that would be marvellous. Other things we're looking out for, Michael Vendrick. We want a couple of goals from him. We want him to be top scorer in the Premier League. I don't think I'll ever see a striker score as many goals as he has for us this year. He needs 2 goals today, though, because he's on 46 goals from 47 starts. I want that to be 48 from 48. Ideally, I want him to get to 50 goals. But, you know, that's just fantasy land. I don't understand how he's... I mean, the Michael Vendrick story is a strange one. How do you go from that performance to that performance in a season? I'm not complaining, but we want at least a couple of goals from him today so he can maintain his goals per game throughout the season. We've not changed the team at all from the team in the last game. It seems silly to. We're going to be playing on the same basis. We're going to control. We're going to be flexible. Yes, we just need to score lots of goals. That's all it's about today. A Vendrick hat-trick in the first half, and then we can relax a little bit. Anything other than that, and at half-time I'll be putting the scores from the other games on and we'll be starting to panic. But fingers crossed. I mean, what we really want to see is Stoke drop down below us, because that means Brentford have got into the league into the lead in that game. And that would... Can West Brom catch Brentford? They can't. So Brentford are safe. So now it's just all about helping their old friends Tottenham like they did last year. They love to help me out. I might just sign their whole team or buy a player off them for 30 million quid to say thank you. I could buy a player off them. I love spending money. That's a good reason to invest. I might even see if they've got an English player. I'll sign my first English player in about 5 seasons, even though I still maintain Kevin Thompson counts. But the game says no, he's officially Jamaican now. Even though he was English when he signed, it doesn't count. And I haven't signed an English player since I was at Plymouth. So that's probably something I need to rectify at some point. But there aren't any that are any good, at least not that are coming up on my scout reports. Stoke are already ahead against Brentford, but it looks like Chelsea and Norwich are drawing. We're going to put the other games on. We need to know what's going on. Latest scores is what we want. Latest scores. There we go. If we get rid of this match information thing, we don't really need that today. But what we do need is to be able to see the latest scores. Let's make the league table smaller. Why doesn't it all just fit on a normal size monitor? I don't understand. So, if we look at the scores quickly before the second half starts, Chelsea-Norwich is still 0-0. So if Chelsea score and we don't, Chelsea make it into the Champions League ahead of us. Brentford are losing to Stoke. So we need Brentford to do us a favour again. If it comes down to 2 seasons in a row of Brentford being the team that get us into the Champions League, then that's just silly. I mean, who writes this stuff? Oh, I'm nervous about what's going on in the Chelsea game. I'm watching this more than I'm watching the match at this point. But we need those couple of goals from Vendrick. Almost more than the Champions League. I want him to end the season on a goal a game. It feels more important, but I'd probably settle for the Champions League, an Oscar scoring, or Cotton Eye Joe. I don't really need Vendrick to have a goal a game, but it would be lovely. No, Igor, what did you just do? No. What did Igor do there? Someone asked me in the comments yesterday, what's the point of Igor then? And I said he doesn't make the mistakes that Thompson used to make. Hold the phone. We're still in a Champions League position and I don't understand why. Did Chelsea need to win? Is a draw not enough for them? Was I not paying enough attention? I assumed if Chelsea got a better result than us, they're there. But as it stands right now, we can lose against a team that's already relegated and still make it into the Champions League. So sneak our way in without deserving it 2 seasons in a row. But Chelsea will surely know what's going on here and will go and score. But if you remember, last season, all the talk, they've gone ahead. What I was saying was all the talk was that Man United lost to Brentford and saved us, but Chelsea were playing against already relegated Ipswich and drew 0-0. And all they needed last season was a goal and they'd have knocked us out of it. We desperately need a goal. If we can equalise, we do them on goal difference as long as it stays 1-0. I can't believe we're having this much trouble dealing with Hull. Nole can come on. And, So Brian, you can come on as well. We're going to do this. I've done it a few times. Oscar's gone up front probably 3 or 4 times recently and performed quite well there. I kind of think of him as my third option up front now, behind Cotton Eye Joe and Vendrig. But we're just... I don't understand us. Anicic, you go up front and have a try. Somebody score a goal, for goodness sake. Even Norwich. I don't care who scores it, as long as it's not Chelsea. But we're going to miss out on the Champions League by losing against Hull. Brentford, have you got anything for us? 2 goals right at the death. Norwich, anyone? We can't help ourselves. This is a disaster. This is an actual disaster. We've missed out on the Champions League. On the last day of the season, we've missed out on the Champions League. And that is a massive, massive problem. Because look at the state of our finances. Give me a minute and I'll tell you what our transfer budget is for next season. It's not going to be pretty. Still no transfer budget. I think the board are trying to work out what on earth to do in this disastrous situation that none of us expected, but we have got a few other things come through. Vendrig finishes second in the top goal scorer award behind Ruben Iribarren, who I was hoping... I've had him fully scouted. I was going to try and poach him this summer on the basis that we were going to be in the Champions League and Liverpool weren't even going to be in Europe. Look at the state of that. Look at that. 4.5-star current ability, 5 full-on stars of ability. Yes, we would have had to have spent an absolute fortune on him, but he's 22. I would have spent £100 million on him quite happily. We won't get him now because we're only in the Europa League. He'll go to a Champions League club. Very upsetting. Vendrick makes it into Team of the Year. Oscar makes it into our best 11. Who cares about all that stuff? There you go. Vendrick gets Player of the Season. Sedman Goal of the Season. Oscar Signing of the Season, because he was the only one. And also Young Player of the Season. And I'm really disappointed with that season. Yes, we're in the Europa League. Yes, we've won the EFL Cup. But it just feels like a massive step backwards. End of season team meeting. We need to be in the Champions League next year. Let's be passionate and say we need to qualify for the Champions League. Good, they're all up for it. Smash him. Do we get a transfer budget? Transfer budgets, anybody? Yeah, I don't need to do it. I just want to know how much money you're giving me. This is all I'm interested in now, because if I'm getting £3 million, I might just resign. I know I've just signed a 4-year contract, but I can't be sticking around at a club who aren't going to back me with money, and I don't see that they've got any money to back me with. Now we've cost them Champions League pennies that have just about kept us afloat this season. Right, here we go. What? Oh, for a minute I thought Vendrick was going up to £205,000 a week. It's just a bonus. That's fine. We can live with a bonus. Right. Here we go then. I don't understand this board. We'll take it. But where on earth are they finding £50 million? But I will goose darn spend it. And... there we have it. Season 19. Over. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.